Hey everybody, it's Katie. I'm sorry for all the chaos behind me. We just got our living room repainted and it's not quite done yet, so we have still all of our furniture gone or moved all over the place. But I just wanted to do a quick video. So this was one of my viewers requested, unfortunately a really long time ago because I've sort of been off of the vlogging train for a little bit here. Basically like talking about, she told me a little bit about her experiences breastfeeding her 18-month-old at the time, and just asking kind of some of my experiences breastfeeding a toddler, you know, sort of like how's it been the second year, that kind of stuff, what sort of things I've dealt with. Yeah, and I've been meaning to make a video like this. So let me just start off by saying, of course, that everything, you know, this is all just my personal experiences and opinions, and it's not judgment on anybody, and it's not any kind of advice or like, you know, what I think everybody should do or whatever. Like I said, it's really just to document sort of how things have been for us, how things are at this point, and just to share that information with anybody who might be interested. So I'm calling this breastfeeding past a year. I'm sort of, I don't know, I feel like the whole term, like the whole like extended breastfeeding concept is really just, it's only really considered extended in the US and probably Canada and maybe a few other like Western countries, but many other places it's just considered normal. So anyway, for me, myself, the only goal I ever had with breastfeeding was to make it to a year. I wanted to exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months and then continue breastfeeding through the 12-month mark. And that was something I was able to do successfully. I will link to my video when I hit that mark. I made a video kind of celebrating 1 year of breastfeeding, talking about the many challenges we faced during that year and how we got over them and what helped me and that kind of stuff. So I'll link to that video. I know breastfeeding doesn't work for everybody. I'm very fortunate that just everything sort of worked out, and that I was also really persistent. So going into the second year, I really haven't had any goals. I've just been really taking it day by day, or at least like week by week. And it's been pretty effortless because breastfeeding was so well established in that first year that, you know, going into the second, it's just, everything is like pretty routine. We don't have as many issues as you do when you start out. Alice on her own stopped nursing at night, like waking up to nurse around 10 months in my memory. I think it was around the 10-month mark, which was really nice. I know it doesn't work out like that for everybody. You know, sometimes people's kids are still waking up much later than that. But that happened sort of naturally for us. I have certainly had hard days where I felt like I wanted my body back to myself, or just, you know, the thinking like, I can't, you know, I've been doing this for 18 months. I've been doing this, you know, every day for all this time. Yeah, just really having some of those feelings of frustration. Nursing a toddler is harder just because they're always on the move, and I don't know, it's very different than, you know, nursing a newborn or an infant. When I had those hard days, I always gave myself a day to think about it. Even if I felt like, okay, that's it, I feel like I need to be done, because I really kind of respect that it's a two-person relationship. I would tell myself to just sleep on it and think about it the next day. And always, so far, by that next day, my desire to have Alice self-wean or initiate, you know, cutting back and initiating stopping breastfeeding has always won out. So that's always kind of ended up trumping whatever feelings I was feeling at the time. So I guess those feelings just haven't been strong enough. Even if they feel really intense, like at the moment, I would just give myself a little bit of break, you know, and give myself some time to think about it, but we've always been able to go back. I do really feel like breastfeeding is still beneficial at this age. You know, it still has nutritional value, it still has huge immunological value, I think. And it's also just like a perfect way to calm and comfort your child in a way that, in a totally unique way. And this is so useful when Alice has been teething, when she's been sick, when we've been traveling, when anything has sort of been off. I've always been able to nurse and just like provide her like instant, really kind of relief from any kind of stresses she's dealing with. So I think that's really valuable. I have initiated one change over the course of our relationship. So I've been breastfeeding now for 21 months, 21 and a half, and I've initiated one change, and that was, I believe it was around maybe 15 months old, maybe it was around 12 months old, I can't remember, but somewhere in that sort of time frame, I decided that I didn't want to nurse in public anymore. Several reasons why. One is that Alice has always been a very distracted nurser, and as she's gotten older, that's gotten more difficult. She's always been, so for a while I had to use her nursing cover, because if I didn't, she would just be like all over the place. She couldn't focus. But then with time, like the nursing cover was too distracting to her, and she would just be fighting with it the whole time. She doesn't nurse well with other people around, with noises, with new, surroundings. It's just not, it's not a pleasant experience for either of us. So around that time, I started we would be out and about doing something, and Alice would ask to nurse using her sign. I would ask her to wait, and that was fine. She never, flipped out. She never got upset or whatever. She would be okay with waiting. So I realized that, she could do that without stress, and so that's what I, started doing from that point. So if we were at the grocery store and she asked to nurse, I would say, let's wait till we get in the car, or let's wait till we get home, depending on what the day was going to be like. That sort of just fell into place, again, naturally for us. That was a change that I initiated, but she was really okay with it. If she hadn't been, then maybe I would have gone about it a different way, but I'm lucky that it just worked out that way, sort of when I needed it to. The other part of that is definitely, as your child gets older, if you're nursing in public, even around just friends and family and stuff, other people's discomfort level and sort of like the controversial aspect of this extended breastfeeding becomes more of an issue, I think. I am a huge advocate for breastfeeding. I think that it's wonderful for all the reasons I've talked about. And if you followed my videos, you know that I'm a strong advocate. But personally, I feel that the time at which I'm nursing my child is not the time I want to discuss breastfeeding with strangers. I don't like anybody kind of getting up in my personal space or like approaching my child when they're sort of it's something between us, and it's a safe space. And I don't like opening us up to any kind of negative, experiences during that time. So that was also part of the reason I decided to just nurse, in our safe, familiar spaces. So basically at home, in the car, at Mike's office, certain places that are safe and private, and we could both feel good about, and she would nurse well, and it's just a much more positive experience. So I know that nursing in public is more difficult as your child gets older, but like I said, for me, for all those reasons, it has just worked out better to ask her to wait, and it's never really been a problem. Another concern that people might have when considering breastfeeding past a year is the effect on maybe trying to conceive another child. And for me, my cycles returned on their own at 13 and a half months postpartum. For me, that was absolutely perfect, because Mike and I had talked about trying to conceive, again, starting to try when Alice was sort of between 12 and 15 months. We were leaning more towards the 15-month mark. So 13 and a half months, getting my period back was just perfect, because it gave me a little bit of time to kind of let things regulate. We did end up starting to try right away, but I was able to have some time to, sort of get familiar with my new body and let my hormones kind of work themselves out a little bit. So I didn't really feel too much pressure to, try to wean her in order to get my cycles back. And I know that's something that people might face, at various points. If their cycle's taking a really long time to return, if they want to try earlier, that's just going to be up to your family. But for me, the timing worked out really well. As the months kind of went by, and after we had a miscarriage, I did start thinking about trying to nurse just maybe like 1 or 2 times a day, because Alice at that point had started to cut back. And so I tried to focus on like keeping her more active and not nursing when she was bored. So when she would get bored, I would engage her in something rather than just nursing. I felt like that was sort of me kind of taking the easy way out. Like she would get fussy, I would just nurse. And maybe she was probably around 18 months old. I just started trying harder to, get her interested in something and do an activity with her during those times instead. And so from at least 18 months until now, Alice has just been nursing once or twice a day. If she takes a nap, like in the car or when we're out or something, and doesn't nurse before it, then she will usually just nurse once before bed, and that's it. Otherwise, if it's just sort of like a typical day, she'll nurse before her nap and then before bed. She has had 3 nights in a row recently where she just refused to nurse, but then she went back to it. So I don't know if that was her kind of trying out what it would be like to go to sleep without nursing, and she decided she wasn't ready for it. But I'm pretty much okay with those 2 sessions kind of going forward, and we're going to see how it all plays out. I know something that can come up is that people are concerned that breastfeeding can cause miscarriages in early pregnancy. And I've done my research. I am going to post an article or like the statement from the La Leche League where they have kind of summarized the research that is available. There's not a whole lot of research out there, but the research that is there suggests that there's no connection between the two. Really, miscarriages that happen in nursing moms happen at the same rate as non-nursing moms. It's really just coincidence. And that I really believe that the human body is smart and knows what it's doing. I believe that your cycles return when your body can handle nursing a baby and conceiving another. I think otherwise it wouldn't happen like that. I also really believe that your body knows the difference between the first and the third trimester. So the way that nursing stimulates oxytocin, which acts on your uterus to contract, is very different in the first trimester than it is in the third trimester, when it can cause preterm labor, other complications. So that's really what I feel comfortable with. I really don't feel there's a connection there, but you should do your own research. Another point is that in many different cultures, it is very common to nurse several children even at the same time. So to nurse, through a pregnancy completely and then nurse multiple children. Me personally, the thought of tandem nursing, the thought of nursing like through a pregnancy and then nursing Alice with a newborn is scary. I don't feel like that's something I could do, but I'm going to cross that bridge when I come to it. And for the time being, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Things are mostly pretty easy. I do have those hard days, but so far I've always gotten through them. And I don't know, I just feel good about continuing to kind of give Alice what she wants and needs at this point. What seems ideal would be if she self-weaned around, give or take, the age of 2. And I know that statistically, like a pretty high percentage of kids do that within like a few months before their 2nd birthday or a few months after. That is like a natural point where a lot of kids do decide to wean. So we'll see. I hope that answers some questions. It probably opens up a whole bunch of others, but I am happy to respond to respectful questions and comments below. Thank you guys for watching.